All right, so welcome in today. We're going to be diving into what's happening over in the House of Representatives. As many of you probably are already aware, Kevin McCarthy out, and potentially a vacant spot could be filled by a pro-crypto lawmaker. It's going to be interesting to watch. We'll break it down for you guys today. We have a good interview, I think, ahead of it as well. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Before we get into the interview here with Ron Hammond from the Blockchain Association, I want to play a clip, and we'll set it up. He's kind of waiting in our room here, so he's watching this at the same time. Let's go ahead and cut to this clip to give you guys kind of an overview.
How confident are you that you will have this job for a full 2-year term?
1,000%.
The office of Speaker of the House is hereby declared vacant.
Key members of the narrow Republican majority he presided over turned on him in a dramatic statement of no confidence. A final vote, 216 to 210.
So they broke promises. I had to go find out what these promises were, right? He promised to use the 2022 baseline numbers as appropriation numbers for this year, and he didn't. Are you angry? Maybe he didn't. Are you pissed? I don't know.
Doesn't this just completely paralyze the House? I mean, we could see 15 more rounds.
I don't think we will. I will not run for Speaker again. I'll have the conference pick somebody else.
Chair declares the House in recess, subject to the call of the chair.
North Carolina Republican Patrick McHenry was designated acting Speaker. McCarthy's deputies, like Majority Leader Steve Scalise, are being floated for the job.
Scalise is battling blood cancer, but says he feels great. He's been reaching out to members, and a candidate forum is set for next week. Have you spoken with Scalise? Have you spoken with Emmer?
I've spoken with him, but I'll probably keep our conversations between us.
Will you yourself nominate Steve Scalise for Speaker of the House?
Maybe. There are many people, though. I could see myself supporting Tom Emmer.
But what about Emmer and others?
I think the world of Tom Emmer. He'd make a great speaker.
All right, so I want to welcome in, of course, Ron Hammond over from the Blockchain Association. Thanks for stopping in today.
Of course, thanks for having me. That's a very interesting time, to say the least.
Yeah, so Ron, you got a chance to see our clip supercuts there to try to compile what has happened in a very short period of time, and also to a lot of people that maybe did not anticipate this particular move. What I want to get into, obviously we're going to talk a lot about blockchain and the impact and the role that this is going to play. I want to talk a little bit about Tom Emmer. He's been on our show before, and his position, I know that you work a lot with his office and have with many of the lawmakers. What is your position? Do you think he will be potentially lobbying here for the speaker role?
So definitely for sure. I mean, his name has come up. There's about 4 names that come up right now in terms of who's going to be running for the speaker race. But they have a week. I mean, they have 6 days right now to figure out who exactly is going to replace Kevin McCarthy. And that's kind of the major issue, is that we put a pause on all legislation at this moment for the Republicans to get their stuff together and figure out who they're going to have to be the voice of the party in the House. As we saw with Matt Gaetz trying to vacate the speakership and successfully do so, there's definitely a lot of frustration with a lot of the members of Congress of McCarthy for not getting their priorities vote on, or for cutting deals with Democrats to keep the government open, and a variety of other things that have happened in this split Congress. Again, you have to work with the other side of the aisle here to get anything done in a Democrat administration, in a Democrat Senate. And a lot of folks in the Republican conference, again, only 8 or so bucked Kevin McCarthy publicly, but there has been a couple folks underneath the surface that are a little frustrated with the direction that the House is going. Again, some of that could be blamed on McCarthy, some of that can be blamed on some of the other troublemakers out there.
Yeah, I was looking at, well, you kind of saw it there on the supercut there. For those of you listening on the audio side, maybe you don't necessarily see that, but when McHenry hit that gavel there at the end, he seemed very frustrated that this was happening and had happened with such a unique position, obviously coming in from the Republican, especially if you look at the power of what the Freedom Caucus has been able to do. I want to get into Patrick McHenry because he has been pretty much a very good proponent of crypto, digital assets, but more importantly, I think just the scenario of the overreach by the SEC. What changes with McHenry's position? He's got a couple of bills running through the House right now. Where does that stand? Yeah, so just to level set here. So back in January, actually, when the first speaker fight was going on of Q was going to be speaker, we had 15 rounds to get to McCarthy. Patrick McHenry was given the opportunity to say, hey, look, you've been in Congress for a long time. Do you want to be in the leadership? Do you want to be involved in what bills we get to vote on? Do you want to be involved in the negotiations for, things like the budget and such? And he actually passed that down. It's pretty rare to do in Congress, actually. He actually said, look, I want to focus on my committee, financial services,
and work on, he said crypto. He said, one of the reasons why I'm not going to be in leadership and deal with a lot of these important negotiations with the admin and such is because I want to work on legislation. I want to get something down across the finish line. Again, very rare. So he doesn't want to be in this leadership fight and these leadership drama, but yet he gets dragged in every single time, which is almost a testament, though, of who he is. I mean, he's a respected member among a lot of his colleagues, both on the more conservative side and more moderate side. But at the same time, he doesn't want to be doing this. He saw the gavel break there. He almost broke the dang thing. He wants to be back to legislating, and he didn't want to get dragged into here. But he is kind of the adult in the daycare right now. I mean, it's a mess. I just came back from Capitol Hill. It's a mess out there right now. Everyone's scrambling to find out what's going on. In the meantime, he's saying, look, I'm not going to do anything. At least I'm, temporary speaker. My job is just to hold this gavel and to bang it a little loudly and then to bang it back in when you Republicans are ready to get going. And hopefully we'll have a vote a week from today on the new speaker. But as you can see from this Republican conference, there's a chance that might not be happening because just how fractured everything is right now for the Republicans.
Interesting. All right, so how does this play into the government shutdown? McCarthy had 45 days between a shutdown, which was averted, obviously, with kind of last hour. That could be looked at, and even we saw the crypto markets start to respond. Bitcoin bounced. We saw a lot of digital assets start to kind of come back. What does the next 45 days look like without a speaker up there?
So that's the thing. So if they don't come to agreement a week from now, then a lot of things get thrown in jeopardy. And mind you, again, they plan these bills out months in advance of when things are getting voted on. And for us, it seemed like for crypto in particular, our slot was looking like October, November. And then we could kick it over to the Senate, who hasn't done too much on crypto. And the Senate say, look, we'll take a look at what you guys have, but you got to get it out of the House first. And so now, the longer that we have no votes, not just crypto, but just on anything that's legislative besides the budget and the shutdown aversion, the longer this stuff plays out, and that means it gets pushed more and more farther towards the end of the year. And like I said, the 2024 election is the major thing. That's when a lot of, we get close to the presidential election, a lot of the bipartisan stuff goes away. And technically you can say this vote on the speakership, this has a 2024 connotation because Matt Gaetz might be running for governor in Florida. He's taking directions from Donald Trump. There is a campaign undertone. It doesn't have to come from another party. This can be, your own party attacking each other. And I think that's largely what we're seeing. So, Patrick Henry's a smart guy. He's an operator on Capitol Hill. He knows that if he wants to get a meaningful bill done on crypto regulation, it's got to be in the earlier part of the Congress in 2023, early 2024, not later, because no one's. It's gonna be really tough to go to your constituents and say, hey, I solved, I regulated crypto. That just doesn't really resonate compared to things like abortion or the economy or the border. Plenty of other issues that take precedence when it comes to the voting mass.
So you look at what's happening on the legal front, the court cases that are occurring right now. Of course, we saw Judge Torres kind of go back at the SEC with this scenario saying, hey, listen, don't worry about it. You're not going to get a chance to run at this again. You also have the scenario playing out with Coinbase that also could be very favorable. If Coinbase does get this case dismissed, and you have these wins right now against the SEC, how does that position from a legislative front there in Capitol Hill? Will this give lawmakers more teeth against the SEC? What do you think would happen?
Yeah, so I was actually in the Gary Gensler hearing last week. So I saw Torres, Emmer, Davidson, and McHenry all attack Gary Gensler. Again, some from the Democrat side, a lot from the Republican side. That's expected. But again, Democrat attacking Democrat, that's pretty rare these days. And so that was really refreshing to see in person. But I think for the overall, the court cases got brought up several times saying, look, you're losing in the courts here. And there's other industries like private equity right now is getting squeezed by the SEC over some new rules. And they feel more empowered to sue the SEC because of the wins that crypto is having recently. So our play to Capitol Hill has been, hey, look, there's a gap here, especially after the Torres decision. There's a retail investor gap and lack of protections. You want to put something in the books to make sure these folks are protected, especially as we're talking about FTX and SBF and all these other frauds are happening and getting through their own court cases right now. Doesn't it make sense for Congress to step up and provide those protections and that legal certainty that we now don't have in the Torres decision post it? At the same time, again, the SEC is taking a lot of L's recently, and it looks like it's going to continue for quite some time. And if I was Coinbase right now, I've been feeling pretty good considering what happened with the Uniswap dismissal, the Ripple decision, the Grayscale unanimous decision. So it's not good for the SEC right now. And other industries are also jumping on crypto's wins and saying, if they're winning on this front, I think we can win on other fronts as well. And so the SEC might be tied up pretty heavily when it comes to litigation and actually not doing rulemakings or potentially enforcing actions as much. So it has a huge implication for both the SEC, but also Congress as well. But as we see with the speaker drama, if Congress is not moving at all, then it's going to be really hard to do anything, and the regulators have full reign.
Yeah, this could be bad for crypto if we don't get a speaker in place real quick so we can proceed going further. Staying on the legal front, obviously FTX in the headlines right now. We've got Sam Bankman-Fried really going in front of the judge now, and we're starting to see this case start to roll out. Is the Blockchain Association planning any kind of anti-FUD campaign to help kind of dispel and position the crypto industry as a whole, which is very anti-FTX and that is we could have avoided this had we had legislation in place? What are you guys planning for that scenario?
We've been saying that for quite some time on Capitol Hill. It's resonated with some folks, but again, there's about 300 members of Congress in just the House alone that have not sat in a single crypto hearing. They're dealing with armed services, they're dealing with tech, they're dealing with science, space. They're dealing with a plethora of issues, education, healthcare. So how do you break down all the issues of crypto in 30 minutes so they understand that A, there is a need for regulation, but B, to dispel some of those things like SPF being all of crypto? And was this fraud a crypto thing, or was it more of a Madoff general scam that we've seen in decades prior, centuries prior, candidly?
Yeah.
Which I think most folks are realizing that. But also, SPF was so much on Capitol Hill, so many members took donations. If hypothetically more comes out in the court case on that dynamic of members taking donations, tying it to SPF, I think we'll see what we saw in the later part of 2022, where a lot of folks will say, look, I just don't even want to be seen optically with this because I'm going to have newspapers in my home district say I took crypto money. And even the average voter just can't dispel FTX from all crypto or SPF from all of crypto. And we saw that a lot. We even saw some members of Congress straight up say for a couple months they weren't going to take a single more crypto meeting solely because they were burned in the media by SPF and taking those campaign funds. Again, they had no idea it was a fraud or scam. A lot of folks in the industry had no idea it was a fraud or scam until the CoinDesk article. So we do feel for them to some extent, but at the same time it says, look, let not one man just dictate the rest of this industry here. Let's put some rules on the books. And it's kind of weird that Republicans, who are usually the ones anti-regulation, are the ones asking for a regulation almost in lockstep. And we have a decent amount of Democrats, but it's not the general full party yet of saying we need regulation here. There's still that undertone of if we regulate it, we legitimize it. But as we know, crypto's been here for a while. It's going to be here to stay. So let's get some rules on the books.
Yeah, and I think, the one thing I would look at as far as lawmakers, and many of you lawmakers and staffers are probably watching this today, and the thing I look at and we hear from our audience so much is the thwarting of innovation, which is what we've already started to see. And if you watch our channel much, we talk a lot about what's happening in Asia, even what's happening within the pro-EU center around MiCA and what those guidelines have been able to set forth. So there's a lot happening that is kind of leaving the United States behind. So I wouldn't want to be a lawmaker that is the one that lost that role, regardless of, being just slightly attached to something as bad as FTX. I want to play a clip for you real quick. We're going to go to Tom Emmer talking about FTX. Listen in.
Were you the chairman of the SEC when FTX collapsed?
Yes.
And how many times did you meet with FTX prior to their collapse?
I think my public record shows 2.
You met it with FTX at least twice. Who was the chairman of the SEC when Terra Luna collapsed, sir?
We had brought...
You were, sir. Does it concern you, by the way, that your approach to the digital asset industry is actually driving this industry out of the United States?
We're trying to drive it to compliance, and if they're not complying with the laws, then they shouldn't be offering their products.
Reclaiming my time. You can't really think that pushing this industry abroad is going to protect American consumers when it hasn't several times in the past on your watch.
So Emmer kind of, strutting his stuff there, going at Gensler directly, and also kind of dispelling that FUD that, the SEC has presented that, hey, they're protecting American investors against, acts of what have happened around FTX. Obviously, we've got a lot happening from the front of Coinbase and what they're trying to do in terms of getting people active. And Emmer has even talked about that we need a lot of people to really advance at least the topic. We've talked about Stand With Crypto before, but right now, for instance, 16,000 contacts to Congress. This is going to have to go up a lot for us to really make a dent in the lawmakers going forward, at least to let the lawmakers know the constituents really care about this. When you look at that, is that possible right now with what you're seeing, not only in the market, but what you guys hear from some of the companies?
Yeah, so what Coinbase did actually was kind of the first of we've seen actually in crypto. And it's hard in financial services in general. And again, Congress, especially the House, they're tied to the constituents. The voters are the ones who get to make sure they have a job or not. And, for a lot of finance issues, a lot of the businesses and operations have been more on the coastline. So you see New York, SF, Miami, but you don't really see that as much when it comes to just general crypto issues. And so Coinbase did something really incredible where they brought founders from all over the country, Ohio, California, Nevada, Texas, and they brought them to meet their actual member of Congress or in their state delegation and to talk to them about, hey, you don't know crypto, but I'm your constituent, I'm a voter. Let me tell you about why this is important. And that was a huge first step. Again, advocacy firms, do this all the time on Capitol Hill. If you walk around, you'll see folks for healthcare issues, education. Yeah. But finance is a little more difficult because it's harder to find those constituents unless they're bankers or community bankers or credit unions or something to that effect. So Coinbase did a really good job bringing folks from all across the country. We actually got a couple of Democrats who even co-sponsor the market structure bill from that. And that was, again, directly because of Coinbase's actions on the education advocacy level. So I think we're going to be doing that again. Again, I think there's a balance, though, too, of also saying, look, like there's the constituent angle, there's the business angle, there's the United States national security angle. And so we're trying to hit all of these parameters here to get just, a bill going forward. And that's what it takes sometimes on Capitol Hill is that constituent angle. And Brian Armstrong did a really good job, and the Coinbase team did a really good job of breaking that down. And then having some weird souvenirs as well as like lasting trinkets. I mean, when I was sitting in the hearing, most of the folks in the audience were drinking Coinbase cold brew, which I thought was kind of funny. So seeing some of that play out was a great dynamic. But again, we still have a long ways to go. But that's what I'm telling folks here who are listening. The best way to reach out is to go to your member of Congress and to go through their website and either write an email to them or go through old post mail here and also send a letter because those outreaches actually matter. And it matters if you talk to your senator or your rep. If you're talking to someone like, let's say, you talk to Liz Warren, but you live in Texas, there is filters that her office will never see that because they don't represent that person. So focus on the person who represents you. That's how you get stuff done. And I used to be a Hill staffer. I used to be the kind of person that actually had to respond to all those things. And when you get a lot for the same issue and you don't really know the issue, that's when you reach out to folks like me, my current role, and say, hey, Ron Hammond of the Blockchain Association, I got a lot of these requests actually on crypto regulation. What is this? Can you tell me? And actually, it happens a decent amount. So that's why I tell folks, please do that because it kind of starts the whole train of like, what does education look like in advocacy? And that's when they come to us, we can break down what the issues are and why they should care.
It's funny. We actually went through the Stand with Crypto process, and Wasserman is here in South Florida, and we got a chance to break through to her office, and actually we're talking to staffers, and for the first time, I actually got a call back on this, which completely surprised me on just getting more information and scenarios of how this plays into me as a business owner and as someone here in South Florida. So I think you're right. I mean, obviously this does help. Emmer's hit this on, I want to play a quick clip from Emmer's on what it would take to get this really moved forward. This was he and I talking about this. Listen in.
There will be a package of things that will be offered immediately. All of these bills, I'd love to see them move right now, Paul. But the environment that we're in with Congress itself, not exactly working in a hand in glove fashion, I just think that better times are going to come. And when they do, we need to have these things that we've already offered. We need to have people educated on why they're important, why they will make a difference, why they will help this industry grow in a safe fashion. And if nothing else, make sure we're educating everybody in this environment why these are so important. Be in contact with your elected representatives. 40,000 calls into a senator's office in one day kind of forces the elected official to put his or her head up from the sand and say, wait a sec.
Thumbs up. Yeah, so Tom and I had a chance to talk about that way before he started really screaming at Gensler. But he was in a position, I think, to really kind of drive it home, and that is education. And back to you guys' point. So you guys are doing a great job out there. I want to ask one last question for you, Ron. When you look at the landscape of what's happening in Congress right now, and within general, what's happening in the legal framework, all of this. I mean, how do you feel about the current bills that are currently in play?
So the two major bills right now still remain the market structure bill, the Fit for the 21st Century of Innovation Act. We just call it the market structure bill to make it easy. And then we have the stablecoin bill. So what's likely going to happen right now, again, this is probably just because of the 2024 election, the speaker drama and everything. We're going to probably, if this does get finalized in a week or so, we have a new speaker, a lot can happen, but what likely will happen, we'll see a vote probably November now on crypto. It could be now potentially early December. So that means that we have only 2024 and probably the first 2 quarters to get something through the Senate, which has had very little to only one actually crypto hearing this year. It's just not their priority. Now, there are rumors, though, about a potential trade where McHenry went to Senator Brown, the lead Democrat for Senate banking, said, if we take up some of your priorities, marijuana and executive compensation, would you take up crypto? And there seem to be at least potentially, yes, some able to work out. Again, it's politics, so easily can fall apart. But what that would look like, to Emmer's point about a package, what probably would mean is that either A, we're going to have a big financial services bill, which will include crypto and those other priorities, and that goes its way through the normal process, or, which is more likely, given everything happening this week, we're going to probably see an omnibus bill. And this is where it gets a little tricky, because an omnibus bill is pretty much throw everything in there and see what sticks. What's the Democrat Senate and Republican House going to live with? It's hard, but it's worked for the shutdown. That's how it got averted. And so if that happens at the end of the year, will any crypto bill get included? And my thoughts more is that stables are more likely than anything to get included in such a package. But the White House objected to that bill in the markup in July. That's when they were voting committee. So there's still that lingering issue. The White House can get involved. But if these things keep going off and the regular order in Congress grinds to a halt, then we're looking at a big bill. And again, that's a good potential opportunity to get some good legislation. But you can have Senator Warren throwing in her bill as well, or other bad bills out there that could kill crypto or really hamper it. And so it's a kind of a harder thing to map out, and it's easier just for nothing to be included. And we would rather say, let's go with the regular order. Let's get this done. Senate needs to move forward. But we'll take, a light at the end of the tunnel is always good to have. But an omnibus bill can raise a lot more problems than actually solve a lot of them. So we'll see how this all plays out. But look, December, end of this year, could be a very important time for crypto, especially for stablecoins.
Yeah, very much so. Last topic here, I saw Kristen, president there at Blockchain Association, talking about the PAC and launching. So you guys have got the Blockchain Association PAC in play. Tell me a little bit about it. How's it work? What's really the goal and focus on?
Yes, of course. So we want to make sure we keep our champions in Congress. I know political donations, especially after FTX, have a lot of questions. But that's how every industry does it. And that's how actually a lot of grassroots folks do it too. If you want to keep the member of Congress, regardless of party, in power, that they support your champion, your idea. And for us, it's crypto. We want to make sure we support those folks on a good bipartisan basis, because these folks need to run re-election campaigns. We've got to keep them here. And there's a whole slew of other industries or other folks who are trying to take them out. And so the best thing we can do is support the folks we have in Congress, both via voting, but also at the same time, contributing to campaigns. I used to run campaigns before I worked over in the House. And I can tell you every dollar matters in terms of hiring another staffer or making more yard signs or getting out the vote. So we try to make sure we at least encourage our crypto champions and show folks, hey, look, it's not just the industry companies that support you, but also individuals, whether it be the crypto investor, the everyday American who wants to do $50. There are ways for you to get involved, not on the education front like Coinbase did, but also on the finance front. And that does go a long way. Trust me, as a former campaign manager, any dollar helps. And, it means just one more staffer or one more foot on the ground or one more mailer. And these things do help out a lot. So I know, again, a lot of folks are averse to it, but it's an important part of the U.S. political process as it is right now.
Yeah, for sure. All right, for everybody watching, make sure and check out Ron's Twitter account. You guys can learn a lot more about the Blockchain Association and their team. We have him on every once in a while. So, Ron, thanks so much again for coming in today and giving us an update here on what's happening with the speaker. We'll see how I imagine this is going to be a very busy week for the next few weeks for you guys. So good luck to everything you're doing.
Thanks. Keep an eye on Steve Scalise. He's probably the guy that's going to win, but Jim Jordan's making a pitch too. So we will see what happens, but thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. You bet, Ron. Okay, guys, you're listening. Maybe over on the podcast side of things, jump over here to the YouTube channel. It's another great place you can, of course, become part of the PBN family. All you have to do is hit subscribe. If you like these kind of breakdowns and these interviews, make sure and hit the like button. It's one of the ways that helps the algorithm to let everybody else know what's happening in crypto. And really at this last part of the year, it's very important to get your name out there, you being heard as an individual, whether you're an investor or you're just crypto curious. Make sure and visit the Stand With Crypto program. We've pitched this a couple times. I usually will leave a link down below as well. If you're not in our Diamond Circle, that's another way that you can get additional information. It's a free email. All you have to do is click the link down below. You'll get signed up there. We do a couple of TA videos and some other breakouts for you, additional content, research, all that stuff available to you. Of course, if you want to reach me, hit me out there on X at Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.